Hi, and welcome to the second unit of this class. In this lesson, we're going to start painting. We've talked enough about references and collecting images, so let's actually jump in and start doing something. And this video lesson, we're going to focus on thumbnail sketching. It's not something that's required, but I do encourage you to do it because it's a good way to explore ideas before you actually start your actual final image, and it's just generally a sort of trusted and grounded way of working that has proven again and again to be very efficient and to sort of guarantee you good final results, because there's a lot of ways of working on an image in a sort of wrong workflow and then getting stuck and not actually being able to fix it anymore because everything's already so detailed and rendered and sort of stuck, so to speak. And this is why the thumbnail phase is very important, because we're very loose and we're just focusing on the big shapes and the values and the main composition. And this is something that always rules your image, despite the level of detail or rendering. These things are always what actually sort of are the first impression of what a person sees, even if you present them with all the details straight away. The big shapes and the main values is what you perceive and which will actually make you decide if you enjoy the image or not. And these are usually called fundamentals. They go a bit broader. There's also perspective and scale and stuff. We're not going to focus that much on that just yet. We're mostly going to talk about composition and values. And to help us with working with values specifically, we're going to work in black and white. This is a common practice in the thumbnail sketching phase. But when we start doing the actual painting, we're going to work straight in color. And I'll explain to you at that point why we're doing that. But for now, let's just jump in and start. Okay. And if you've got some screen space, maybe just put up your references. You can't see mine, they're outside of the borders, but I've got my landscape references up and some mood references, so I'm just gonna look at that. The mood's not so important just yet because we're still working in black and white, and I haven't really decided on the lighting yet. We can get to that a little bit later. So first we're gonna focus on the shapes and the type of environment and the main composition. Okay, so I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller because we don't really need a lot of resolution at this stage, and the brush strokes in Photoshop tend to be a bit smoother if you work smaller. And I'm just going to take a 1:2 aspect ratio because I love this aspect ratio. It's very wide, it's very cinematic. Alright, and I don't want to start with a white canvas. I actually want to go for a middle value. And the reason that I'm doing it is because it gives me more room to play with adding light and adding shadows or dark parts. And if you work with white, you sort of have to work down entirely because you're starting with the brightest color straight away, and that's usually not a good thing to do. So I'm just going to pick sort of a slightly darker gray and then a slightly brighter gray, and I'll just apply a basic gradient like this, and I'm giving the sky a little bit brighter value. So if you zoom out, you can sort of already feel let's say a bottom piece and a top piece, which is sky. So let's just add a new layer, and while looking at your landscape references, just start painting type of environment. I'll just take a paintbrush. Okay. And so I'm thinking about the corals, not that much just yet, but I've got it in the back of my head that we're sort of doing something with giant corals. So I use it a little bit in the sort of shape language that I'm applying with my brush. But these could be rocks, these could be anything. And as you can see, as I'm going more in deeper into the depth of my space, I'm using a lighter value. And I'm going to go a little bit darker in the foreground. This is a common practice, and it usually works, so I'm going to apply it here. And what I'm going to do now, and this is something that is recommended a lot, and I'm always going to recommend you to do it as well, is to flip the canvas while you're working. This should somehow just become something that you automatically do. It's just good to help you stay focused. And you can also maybe zoom in and zoom out to different zoom levels while you're working. This also helps you get a fresh look at your work. And so you don't have to stick with one thumbnail sketch if you think it's not working. I'll just stick these in a group and maybe turn them off and just try something new, you know. Maybe I want to work a bit more with a dynamic angle. So then I'll just, you know, use a slanted horizon line. And I don't know what exactly I'm drawing. I know that I've got the sort of corals in the back of my head, and I know that I've got a landscape in the back of my head, but what exactly it is, I'm not sure of yet. It's not important. The main thing that we're seeing is just the separation of dark colors and light colors, or values actually. They're not colors. And this is really what we're looking at. I'm making it that small, exaggerated, just to show you, like, okay, what do we just see? We see dark parts, light parts, and sort of middle tone parts. And that's actually the only really important thing. And we can extract whatever from that afterwards. So you can see this is a completely different composition. This is much, a bit more boring, a bit more, you know, stable, flat, I guess. But we could use a wide scale. And here we've got more of a wide lens kind of look, something like that. So maybe let's try something else. Just don't be afraid to try different things, and don't be afraid to make things that maybe don't look so good. It's alright. You can. The good thing about this phase is that it's really fast, so you don't really waste a lot of time. Okay, so I'm quite liking this. I've got sort of a nice layering going on. And maybe this is something on top. Okay, so I'm starting to see something in here that I quite like. So this could be a foreground element, and this could be a large chunk of coral or something, and then there seems to be some illumination going on underneath it. And here's some smaller pieces, and then repetition of shapes in the background, which will help us to show scale. Okay, and maybe I can already apply a little bit of lighting here. I'm just going to take a soft round, put it on linear dodge add, and just paint a little bit of a light in there. Maybe some light rays, some volumetric light, and maybe there's some reflection of that on our ground surface. Okay, so I quite like this one, so I'll get rid of the rest. And okay, and maybe one thing we can sort of do before we accept our thumbnail and get into the next phase is just change like slight little things, just sort of fine tune it a little bit. So for example, I want to create a little bit more scale in this foreground, so I'll just copy that, and I'll just use a little bit of warping and free transform to create a bit more scale difference. So if I'm using more straight lines, you get more of this sort of feeling of perspective. maybe losing some space here. So maybe I can just play around a bit with it. See if you find something. Maybe an interesting way of concealing the foreground. Maybe you can already come up with something, you know, some shape that could be in the foreground or in the background. Just a little bit of fine-tuning basically to your thumbnail, but nothing too fixed yet. We're still going to play around with it. But usually when you do this, you start getting ideas. You know, your mind starts seeing things. We're looking for sort of happy accidents and interesting shapes or forms or. So maybe there's sort of a tunnel here or something, and this leads to there. And we can start thinking about the composition, obviously, while we're doing this, and maybe thinking about where we want to place focal points. So right now, if I just apply the rule of thirds, more or less, so there's a point of interest here, and maybe there'll be a point of interest here. So perhaps I could just move this up a little bit, this tunnel, which will be a point of interest. So it just matches the third a little bit more. You don't have to precisely follow this, but you know, it is a guideline for a reason. So you can. And then here we'll come up with something interesting. So basically what our eye is going to do, we're going to follow sort of foreplan into this passage here, and then somehow try to lead the eye to whatever we're going to put here. I don't know yet. Sort of second focal point. And yeah, so that's kind of the composition I think I'm going to go for. So try this yourself and do as many thumbnails as you think you need to until you're satisfied. As you see, I did 3 rough ones in around 10 minutes. And so yeah, you can easily spend half an hour or more, however long it takes to explore ideas, and before you actually scale this up and get into like the hard labor. Okay, so in the next image we're gonna just blow this up, not with TNT, just the image size, and we're gonna start painting the main composition in a bit more detail and talk a bit more about the values and the shapes specifically, and maybe apply a little bit of lighting and a little bit of color. So yeah, let's move on to the next video lesson.